So we have, speaking of imperialism. How about that?
Yeah.
How about that? Speaking of imperialism.
That's why you're paid the big bucks.
We have some conference realignment news right off the bat today. UTEP on their way to the Mountain West after 20 years in Conference USA. And Gonzaga is moving on to the Pac-12, which was reported 2 weeks ago by Brett McMurphy.
Right.
And then Gonzaga was like, it's not happening. I mean, I don't know anything about that. And then 2 weeks later, and Brett McMurphy, 4 o'clock today right here on 365 Sports, will be able to take his victory lap. So, which he's already kind of done on Twitter.
Right.
But we'd like to give him an auditory ability to do that. But Gonzaga doesn't have to add football. They don't have the infrastructure for it.
Right.
No one cares. They don't want it, and they're still going to get a full share. So they're going to get everybody else's football money.
It's a good gig if you can get it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, by the way, I don't think I introduced ourselves today. So this is Royden, Ogletree, and Paul Catalina, in case you were wondering.
It's been a few weeks.
Yeah, it's been a couple weeks. Last week we had planned to do a show, but I got caught up helping Smokey do something. And it was going to be us either starting at 1:15 or flying in here on 2 wheels. Mm-hmm. Either way. And I was like, I don't want to do a show that way.
Right.
Because I would be like, all right, college football, Royden, just talk for a second while I figure out what's going on
I'm
here.
sure the audience would
appreciate that. Yeah. Let's lock in. He's got the A game today.
Yeah, exactly.
So I promise you this. When it comes to the triple option, if I don't have my A game or my B game, we're just not going to do a show.
Yeah.
So if you pop on and there's one of two things happening. We have some sort of conflict. I have to do way more shows in that day. Or I simply do not have my A game because of the world around me.
Couldn't be bothered.
The walls have closed in.
Yeah.
And I don't want to sacrifice the quality of this product.
Yeah.
Just to do it.
Yeah, sometimes we just don't have it.
Yeah.
And that's fine. And I think more and more people need to just come on their shows or on I wish I could go on the news and be like, I don't have it today, guys.
Yeah.
Didn't have the capacity, to be honest with you.
Here's the thing. Here's the scores. This is what you need to know.
Yeah. Dave Aranda said this.
Yeah.
I'm going to go home.
Yeah. And can you just run this again at 10?
Yeah.
Just
new audience, whatever.
Just roll it around.
Yeah.
It's what they do in SportsCenter anyway. Just roll it around. Why do we need to be here? Well, what if news breaks? Okay.
Call me.
Call me. Look, I'll teleconference in. That's fine.
Everything's on Zoom now.
Yeah. Just you drinking a Coke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So about that.
Here's that. No. But yeah, so these are cool things, for those conferences. It's not so cool for Conference USA.
Who continues to, historically have been picked through forever.
But here's the thing with the Mountain West. They still have to both of them still have to get to full football members in the next couple years. So we don't know where the Pac-12 and Mountain West will go after this. The Mountain West made a step towards their full football members today. The Pac-12 made what I think is a good move athletically for Gonzaga and for the Pac-12, especially when it comes to rebuilding some, basketball. I mean, they've got San Diego State, really good basketball program.
Yep.
Just in the Final Four. Gonzaga regularly in Final Fours in that conference. So they building up some basketball acumen.
Well, yeah,
there.
you have to replace regardless of what you think of UCLA as a basketball program now, and they're still the greatest basketball program.
They're still the
exists.
Alabama of basketball.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
So replacing that brand was always going to be tough. So replacing it with sort of, I don't even know because they haven't won. They're a model day.
But they're a well-known basketball program.
Right. Everybody knows Gonzaga. So
yeah. So. Anyway, but
what do you think? I mean, the UTEP in the Mountain West makes sense to me. I don't have anything other than it just computes well in my mind.
Yeah.
So does that boost their standing as a?
I don't know. It gets the Mountain West back into Texas.
Yeah.
Which they lost, so we'll see. I'm curious where the Pac goes. Is it Texas State now? because they can't have UTSA, they can't have North Texas, they can't, all those, all the schools in the American committed to the American. And basically the Memphis AD came out and said, like, look, we're not just going to join the Pac-12 because they say it's going to be this new thing. What are you really offering us? And they can't really say down the line. Now for Gonzaga, it's more money no matter what, right? So this is a great move for Gonzaga. For UTEP to join the Mountain West, it's a good deal. But for Memphis or USF or UTSA to just jump and go to the Pac without any kind of guarantees as to what the future is going to be, why would you do that? What difference are you making? Like, for UTEP to go to the Mountain West, to me, is a difference-making thing.
Yeah. For
UTEP to, for UTSA to go to the Pac-12, like, well, they're just making another G5 conference, so what does it matter?
Yeah.
Right? Like, what prize are you winning at this carnival if you go there? So, at least with the other schools, it feels like they're starting something new. But for any school that's in the American already that has a better TV deal than all of them right now, why would you jump ship?
It does feel to me a little bit like the Pac-12 is, and this was always the case when they were almost obliterated, but they're just hanging on. So it will kind of reform a group of 5 conference regardless.
Yeah.
Like Gonzaga, good school, obviously awesome basketball school, but like throwing in some of these schools and their football programs who have had varying degrees of success at the group of 5 level into yourself and now calling yourself a Power 5 conference again. I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think your point stands where it all of a sudden is just another group of 5 conference by another name. That's unfortunate for the Pac-12. I always loved the Pac-12 and stayed up late watching those games. But yeah, it doesn't, I'm not sure how much it moves the needle adding the for lack of a better term, the leftovers of the rest of those conferences.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think it doesn't do anything for me, right?
Not moving the needle for you?
Yeah, not moving the needle for me. But I'm glad, look, if everybody can make their situation better in this crazy, crazy world, more power to you.
Yeah, I think Texas State would actually benefit from it, but again, it doesn't boost. Nobody's looking at Texas State from the outside. We down here are like, oh yeah, that would be cool. And Texas State is on the come up with a lot of their stuff, but somebody in Georgia or wherever isn't going to look at Texas State going to the Pac-12 and be like, oh no,
yeah,
what does that do for us? Nothing, not really.
All right, I have another realignment thing. And it came out in the Wall Street Journal today. There's another group, I think it's called College Sports Tomorrow, that has come up with a 2-tiered system of realignment where it would be like a 2-tiered FBS, where the top tier would have 72 teams and the bottom tier would have the rest, but 2 teams from the bottom tier would get into what would ultimately be a 24-team playoff, which, as a person who favors an expanded playoff, sometimes too much of a good thing is a bad thing.
Yeah.
Like, you can have too much of a good thing. Like, it's donuts all 3 meals a day. Like,
diabetes.
Yeah, exactly. But here are the conferences they came up with. 12 6-team conferences based on regionality.
Okay, so pods, basically.
Yeah. So, yes, pods. Okay, and I'll tell you this right off the bat. As much as people may like this or think that this is a good idea and the way you can match up pods and schedule throughout the year would be pretty cool,
Yeah.
But, probably NFL-level scheduling where it's 2 from here, 2 from here, 2 from here.
Rotate after everybody has to play.
Yeah, exactly, to get your 12-game schedule. But the East pod, and I'm going to go through all 12 of these, so bear with me. We're going to read 72 names out loud.
I need to take some notes.
Okay. The East pod would be Boston College, Maryland, Navy, Notre Dame, Virginia, and Virginia Tech.
Love it.
Okay. The Mid-East pod, which is not maybe a great name for.
The Middle East pod?
Yeah. Yeah, the Mideast pod. Yeah, maybe not the
Let's
best.
workshop that a little bit.
Yeah, let's work on that. But they called it the Mideast pod. Already thinking that this group doesn't quite, maybe not the ones we want in charge.
Right.
Cincinnati, Penn State, Pittsburgh, Rutgers, Syracuse, and West Virginia.
I'm sorry, I'm stuck on Middle East pod.
Yeah. Cincinnati, Penn State, Pittsburgh, Rutgers, Syracuse, West Virginia.
Yeah, I already love the regionality of all of it, honestly.
Yeah. Okay. The Great Lakes pod. Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Michigan State, Northwestern, Purdue.
Okay.
The Midwest pod. Iowa, Iowa State, Minnesota, Nebraska, Ohio State, Wisconsin.
Ooh, Ohio State would.
By the way, I would like to point out that Ohio State and Michigan are in different pods. So
A lot of people would love that.
Would you like to hear the definition of non-starter?
Yeah.
The Carolinas pod. Clemson, Duke, NC State, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Wake Forest.
Okay.
The Mid-South pod. Alabama, Auburn, Kentucky, Louisville, Tennessee, and Vanderbilt. Would you like to hear the second definition of non-starter? Alabama being in the same conference as Louisville.
Why do you think that?
I think if they wanted Louisville in the conference, Louisville would already be in the conference. So, the Southeast pod.
Okay.
Florida, Florida State, Georgia, Georgia Tech, Miami, and UCF.
How do you feel about that?
I mean, that would be fun.
Yeah.
That would be fun. If 5 of the games on the schedule were those 5 games every year, I'd love that.
I think this sort of thing, obviously, and this is why we've gotten away, like people complain about there's no regionality in the sport anymore, and it's weird when you're watching Wisconsin play USC this past weekend. Good game, by the way. But anyway, it's weird when you're watching that happen. I think this is why I've always wanted it, because it works to the fact that the in-state rivalries then mean something again. And I think then you have, because alumni historically sort of live within an hour's reach of where they went to school. At least in Texas, it seems like at least everything's within 2 to 3 hours of the bigger cities. But, I have to imagine there's a lot of like Florida State alumni that live near and around Tallahassee. Mm-hmm. So the idea that then these games become bigger to me.
Yeah.
And they're easier to get to, and the fan bases can go so on and so on.
Yeah. Okay. South pod. LSU, Arkansas, Houston, Memphis, Mississippi State, and Ole Miss. Garrett.
That sucks. I don't want to watch any of that.
Okay.
I don't care.
So you're going to take LSU out of the definitely playing Alabama and Tennessee and Florida every year, and say for sure you're getting Houston and Memphis guys.
Hey,
I mean, you can run it you could easily win that almost every year and be set up in the playoff, but none of that makes me want to go and watch those games. None of those matchups outside of Ole Miss. I don't care.
Yeah. Okay. Plains. This is the Plains pod.
The Delta region.
Yes. Colorado, Kansas, Kansas State, Mizzou, Oklahoma, Oklahoma State.
Colorado, Kansas State, Mizzou,
Kansas,
OU,
Oklahoma State.
OU, Oklahoma. Okay.
So here's the thing.
We're bringing back the Big Eight.
Border War and Bedlam. So there's what you said. Hey, listen, we realize that we might have created a situation where Ohio State and Michigan has lower stakes on it, but you can have the border war back.
Yay! Sure, all of college football would rejoice.
I'm looking at this and going, all right, I get where you're going, but you're really eliminating a lot of things, or potentially eliminating things that need to be on a year-to-year basis, and scheduling all 72 teams together to make sure rivalries happen is going to be harder now.
Yeah.
Right? The Texas pod. Baylor, SMU, TCU, Texas, Texas A&M, and Texas Tech.
Sure.
Okay.
Welcome back, Southwest Conference.
Would you also like to hear another non-starter, Texas being shoved back into playing teams that they have twice with SMU and TCU, told them we don't want to be a conference with a part of you, and with Baylor, I guess A&M, they went to them, but A&M too, Texas A&M have told all these teams, we're not interested in a relationship with you. Texas has also told them that. And now they're like, oh no, reunited, it feels so good.
This would be like if your ex got a job at your current place of employment.
Yeah.
And I say, let's get nasty.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah. The Southwest Pod, Arizona, Arizona State, Cal, Stanford, UCLA, and USC.
Okay.
And the West Pod would be BYU, Oregon, Oregon State, Utah, Washington, and Wazoo.
Look, all of it technically makes sense in my brain, except for like the non-protected rivalries portion of it.
I mean, I'm sure there are protected rivalries, but I think the logistics of making this work are nuts.
No, right, but it's something that I had even suggested on this show as well too, where you divide it. I don't think breaking it down to this many sort of pods or conferences was ever going to work. I always thought that it was which is also something that would never work, is the relegation model, which I had gone into detail, I think, over a year ago on this show. But the idea of making things more regional, getting back to that feel of high school talent playing regional high school talent again, which most of these schools hopefully are recruiting from their regions. That's kind of how it's all historically worked. Now less so, but Ohio State still dips into Florida. Who doesn't? But the idea of getting back to sort of making it a more regional sport instead of trying to branch out nationally and to get a foothold into what the NFL is doing is what it feels like. Makes more sense to me for college football. The 2014 playoff is also a non-starter.
Yeah.
We're asking these kids to play too many games. It's getting down to, it's like we're simply going to be playing too many games.
Yeah.
And right now with this playoff, it will now equate to one full NFL season is what they're going to end up playing, 16, 17 games. But there has to be like a 2-round bye for some teams, right? With that thing. So, I don't know. I think you're going to ask college kids to go out there and play 18, 19 games.
Yeah.
Tough.
Yeah.
Especially when all of them aren't getting paid NFL money. So, yes, also non-starter, but the idea in theory is there. We need to iron it out a little bit more and also get rid of the name Middle East for one of the
no, it's Mid-East.
Yeah.
So it's the average
Yeah,
East.
it's the Mid-East Conference.
Yeah, this is what we're telling you. No, it has nothing to do with a very turbulent region of the world.
Right.
It has everything to do with this is how we feel as the creators of this conference, and that it's East, but it's
over here we have the Soviet Russia pod.
But it's very mid.
Yeah, it's very.
Yeah, it's East, but it's so mid.
It's
yeah. And they
gives you the ick.
They asked me, I asked my 15-year-old son what he thought about this particular pod, and he's like, dude, it's so mid.
Yeah.
It's so mid. Doesn't do anything for me. It's mid.
Got it. Thank you. I'm going to write that down.
Yeah.
I always come to
guys,
you
what do you think
ideas.
about this? Mid-East. And like, oh, makes sense. And then like one 50-year-old guy's like, bet.
Yeah. Sick, bro.
Awesome.
Cool. Awesome ideas.
Yeah, I'm divorced. My girlfriend's 22, so she's into that.
She said tie.
I just bought a charger.
The interest rate is unbelievable.
Yeah.
15%.
So when we come back, let's talk coaches on the hot seat. I'm curious on your opinion on some of these.
Really great stuff going around here, too.
Yeah. I'm going to throw out a coach, and I want you to tell me whether you think hot seat is justified or unjustified.
Sounds good.
Okay. And then,
because if I was going to have to come up with this on my own.
If it's justified, then you have to justify it.
Okay, good.
Okay. So this is all about you, Royden.
Yeah, the homework portion of this